David Fetter, Executive Editor Technical for Prepared Foods, and welcome to a Prepared Foods presentation on ingredient trends and new product development. Joining us today is Pam Smith. She's Culinary Innovator and leader of food service outreach for the Mushroom Council. Pam's going to walk us through some quick mushroom trends, and then we'll discuss the rapidly growing use of mushrooms in foods and even beverages, in formulations used for flavor, nutrition, and health. Pamela leads the food service strategy for the Mushroom Council as well. She's a nutritionist, a culinary innovator, flavor consultant, best-selling author, TV and radio host, and she provides the strategic menu development insight. She's done this for clients ranging from Disney and Royal Caribbean cruise lines to Firebird's Wood-Fired Grill, the restaurant group, and others. She's actually co-creator of Darden Restaurant Group's Bahama Breeze in Seasons 52. And she's been the host and MC for all 24 years. The Epcot International Food and Wine Festival has been going on. She has authored 17 books, and this includes her best-selling Eat Well, Live Well. And then she's got her daily radio spot, Living Well, which is on more than 800 stations across the nation. She's co-chair of the Culinary Institute of America's Healthy Menus R&D Collaborative, and she's the founding principal of Shaping America's Plate, PS Flavor, artisanal spice blends, and she works to just boost the offerings of fresh and innovative, tasty menu options with a focus on what's delicious, nutritious, and sustainable. Welcome, Pam.
Oh, it's so great to be with you. I listened to that very kind introduction and just feel so honored and blessed to be here and to talk about what you ended with, foods that are delicious, nutritious, and sustainable. And there's no food like mushrooms to be at the top of that. Why it's topping every trend list right now.
Absolutely. You know, not even a decade ago, it seemed that the focus among food product developers when it came to mushrooms was on the umami and kokumi flavors and then textures. And this, especially in items such as your, partial or even full meat substitutes. And that seemed to change, not only with the upwelling of interest in healthful components in foods, but then it really took off when immunity became a major concern. So to get us started, could you just share a few thumbnail stats on the general appearance of mushrooms in foods and beverages over the past several years? And if you have any info on the rise of mushrooms in foods and bevs based on healthful properties, that'd be great.
Absolutely. And you're exactly right. We've been seeing the trend just rising of mushrooms. Yes, initially because of umami, and they're the ultimate flavor lifter, and chefs have long looked to them as what they could do in their arsenal of kind of the flavor toolbox, the fact that mushrooms fit into any global cuisine, their versatility, and the different textural capabilities. Again, let's remember, mushrooms were actually the OG, if you will, of plant-based cuisine or plant-forward cuisine, long before the notion of meat analogs or some of the meat mimics that have come into play. Mushrooms were kind of it, that original portobello burger, right?
I was just thinking of that, yeah.
For sure. So again, chefs have looked to them for that, and that has overflowed into the home cook as well, trying to recreate restaurant deliciousness at home. It's when, yes, all of the information started to come forth about that mushrooms gave more than just deliciousness. It was delicious and nutritious. The bevy of vitamins and minerals, phytonutrients that we find in mushrooms, as we find in all produce. But mushrooms are something special. Some of those special nutrients are now being found to impact the body, supporting the immune system. We know, and this came out loud and clear during the time these past few years as people began to
Right.
focus on immune health, that mushrooms are the only item in the produce aisle that naturally contain vitamin D. No other produce does that. Actually, there's very few foods that can give you vitamin D, but mushrooms, when exposed to UV light, can provide up to 100% of your RDA for vitamin D. Now, that's a reason to start turning your eye to not just the flavor of mushrooms, but the functional benefits of mushrooms. And that's what we've seen happen. And that's why New York Times named them the top ingredient of the year for 2022. But they just continue, as we said at Hello, to top those trend lists. It's flavor, it's functionality, it's the fact that mushrooms bring so much to the party.
So tell us then how this has affected sales of mushrooms, and the mushroom market as the whole. Um, do
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, over the last 10 years, mushroom sales have increased about 20%. At food service, we see an incredible boost, as well as, again, restaurants are more and more looking to meet the demand of their guests that are looking for more than just a menu item, but a menu item that really delivers on all of their felt needs. Product developers are looking to mushrooms to, again, give them that kind of boost, not just in terms of flavor, but as you said at the get-go, functionality too. The world global mushroom market is project to surpass over $50 billion by 2028. Food service is taking note of that. And with that, more and more, we're looking for how we can really meet the need through menu innovation of chefs and product developers to make the healthy difference with their menu items.
Wow. So we've got that mushrooms are trending big, and we know that the Mushroom for Health ball, so to speak, started rolling quite a while ago.
Yes.
And this is even before the pandemic, and that's with what we talked about, the recognition that the mushrooms, especially those, as you mentioned, treated with UV light, are an excellent source of vitamin D. But then also recently, the whole traditional Chinese medicine entered the picture. Suddenly, the market has been treated to a burst of different types of mushroom species, especially those with both a flavor component and a medicinal one. I'm thinking like king oysters, hen of the woods, lion's mane, and others. And these uh, mushrooms, also are now being cultivated as opposed to foraged, so that's been a big boost, I imagine.
It has, and it really has been, if you will, what has kind of paved the way for mushrooms to take such a center stage of demand and preference. Again, we see that mushrooms have gone beyond a trend. They're more than just a moment. It really has become almost a cultural phenomena where people are looking to mushrooms for so many different factors, even looking to them for clothing and looking to them for car seats, even beyond just the food itself. But in the culinary range, you are 100% on it. It was when mushrooms were able to be cultivated at scale, and we were able to find our familiar favorites, white buttons and creminis and portobellos. You had mentioned shiitakes, but then a whole new era of mushrooms coming forth. Lion's mane, as you just mentioned, trumpets, oysters, giving an opportunity, maitake. It's not just that occasional sighting of hen in the woods, in the woods. All of a sudden, now you had a cultivated maitake, which gave the opportunity for chefs, for menu developers, for the home cook to be able to
You're actually seeing
expand.
them in supermarkets. If you think of it, you can go into not just, I know in talks you and I have had before, we've talked about Asian markets,
Mhm.
having a wonderful selection. But I've been in our local mainstream supermarket and seen meitakis and king oysters and, lions. It is a complete, I don't want to say a turn, just a complete paradigm shift
Yes.
in how consumers are getting to know mushrooms that even a decade ago were way on the fringe. So, what is the global functional mushroom market worth these days? And
Well,
what are
again,
some of the benefits people are, consumers are looking to them for?
yeah, again, it's growing, by leaps and bounds. As I said, I think the global functional mushroom market, where people are looking beyond even just culinary, is expected to grow. Again, estimated around that 13 billion, as we talked about, by 2030.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that merging of culinary and medicinal has been eagerly accepted by consumers. They know that, and as you mentioned, they know that they're getting a lot more, than just the flavor, but that the flavor is great. But as you mentioned, mushrooms are very rare among food ingredients in that they provide just so much of this, and as a main ingredient, if you will. Yes, there are the botanical spices and rhizomes and herbs that give flavor and health benefits, but you're getting those in minute amounts. You
Right.
can sit down to a quarter pound of mushrooms and get your all the vitamin D you need for the whole day.
Yes.
And I think that is what's resonating so well
Mhm.
with consumers.
Yeah.
Um,
As
you know,
people are learning that it's, again, mushrooms are unique. Again, the third kingdom. They're not plant, they're not animal, they're a kingdom unto their own. And honestly, I think we're just at almost the beginning of learning all that mushrooms do. Mushrooms carry, you named it, so much more power. Again, nutritional powerhouses, culinary powerhouses, and we're talking as simple as just the white button mushroom. You don't have to go into the, 2000 some odd mushrooms in Chinese medicine. Just our basic mainstream mushroom provides so much, especially again, if it's been exposed to UV light. Again, just like the human is able to convert, if you will, sunlight to vitamin D, the same thing happens in the cell structure of mushrooms. And that's pretty exciting.
Also, I think they're finding, out about like we said, the trumpets, the meitakis, the oysters, because those are the ones that kind of gave the American consumer a taste for exotic varieties.
Right.
And then, truffles, of course, have always been prized. And when truffles started to be commercially cultivated, of course, we have science to show that they have wonderful, I was about to say phytochemical benefits, but as you point out, it's its own kingdom. It's
It's
but
just
mycochemical benefits, if you will.
phytochemical. I like
Yeah,
that
I
too.
like
Yes.
that.
Yes,
So
for sure.
exactly, and there are a lot of commercial truffle producers right now. They've brought price down About a third from what it used to be when you had to get a foraged, truffle from, your friendly neighborhood farmer with his trusty pig or dog. Um, but yeah, they're still expensive. But shiitakes is a great example of how a cultivated, formerly exotic mushroom can end up mainstream, because I remember when they were $20 a pound in 1970 something dollars, and now they're $5.99 a pound, so that brings up this next question. Where and how are all these, your oysters, your shiitakes, how are they doing in food product development world these days? Are we seeing more of them entering into that aspect?
We are. They still are a very small share of the market, because again, there is still that price barrier, that availability barrier, that barrier to having scale. So when we think about product development, generally, we're needing some pretty large scale, to be able to supply, the need. But the fact that they are just, so buzzworthy. Again, they're part of the shroom boom. You've heard me say that
Right. Yeah.
before.
Love that.
But the shroom boom is resounding. I mean, it's just rising. And so the interest, the uniqueness of some of these, again, just being able to call those out, even if it's in small dose, if you will, in a product, we see that the consumer really latches onto it. It's one thing to say mushrooms. It's another thing to say lion's mane. It's one thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And truffles, I think, are actually a really good example, because they were a low level trend for about a half a dozen years now. But when they started to get, your first cultivated truffles came out around 2015, but now there's been a leap forward, and we're starting to see truffles appear in crackers. I saw truffle crackers day before yesterday, or yesterday at the store. Truffle potato chips. Truffles are even if it's just the oil or the essence of them. Um, what what they have, even if you're only using a little bit, and even to the other mushrooms, lion's mane, trumpet, you can be mixing those in where the greater part of your mushrooms in your formulation are, criminy, or other,
Asparagus, right. Yes.
mainstream mushrooms,
Mhm.
but having that little bit of trumpets, or that little bit of chanterelles, or a little bit of truffle marketability, so that the little extra you spend on that product manufacturing, you can get back with the higher marketability.
Right.
Um, Truffles, I think what will help them is that they have the very distinct garlic flavor.
Mhm.
And I've
Mhm.
always prized it, because this is going to sound shocking for a former chef and food writer. I'm allergic to garlic.
Oh
And
my.
and so for me to get that flavor in my chef days, I was turning to truffles,
Mhm.
and I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, and I'm interesting. I'm seeing more and more chefs kind of take off on the kind of truffle oil phase that again, we could probably do a whole nother conversation just about that because it actually is one of the things that somewhat makes me crazy in restaurant food is because there's and again with your chef background, you know that oftentimes those on the line believe that if a little's good, a lot is better. Well,
Yeah.
that is not the case. But I'm seeing a lot of chefs really embrace that notion, though, of what an infused oil can do. So I have some chefs that are doing a shiitake infusion. They're doing a maitake infusion, roasting the mushrooms so that you're really being able to concentrate the flavor and then do an infusion similar to truffle. And of course, I love that because those mushrooms are more cultivated at scale and they certainly help our US growers.
So that kind of answers my next question in part, which is, what is the best way for research chefs to approach these trends toward exotic cultivated mushrooms? in foods and even as in beverages, as some of them are doing.
There's a learning curve both for chefs and product developers, and of course, the home cook, with learning how to work with some of the specialty mushrooms. We've learned for years potentially how to put our white button mushrooms or our creminis in a tomato sauce or onto a pizza. We've learned how to grill a portobello mushroom, but learning how to smash sear a maitake or a lion's mane into almost a steak, learning how to turn lion's mane into a crab cake, how to be able to use some of these in a way that really lets them be the star.
What are some shifts or trends on the horizon for specific formats? Although I think in part you answered with roasted, and the reason I say that is I remember seeing some new food products recently that include mushrooms and market them as having been roasted. As
I
far as
mean,
getting them,
mushroom bacon is just, I think, going to soar because of all that mushrooms bring to the party. As we said before, mushrooms have that umami and that texture that a traditional bacon would have. And when you roast it, dehydrate it, smoke it, what you get is this plant-based bacon that is just over the top. There's the new, I think, kind of a new format of even mushroom jerky, mushroom crunchies. Again, we've seen mushroom chips starting to emerge maybe over the last
right?
decade. But now they're being taken to a place where they're seasoned. It's not just the chip. Now it's taking on all of those flavors the way we see with snack chips too. And I think that's a new place that we're going to see mushrooms go. And that is go heavily into the snack. I think that more and more as demographics are going towards clockless dining more and more,
Yes.
they're leaning towards snacks as being a part of their power fueling through the day, turning our eye towards what mushrooms can do as that snack food we're going to see more and more of.
I know we're close to time, but before we go, can we just add a little bit more about what the immediate future is looking like for mushrooms in formulation?
Absolutely. And speaking of sustainability, another thing that we're seeing really coming to bear, and I'm sure you are right in the middle of more and more focus on this, and that is the use of mycelium, the what's called mushroom root, as a protein replacement. So rather than the ultra processed meat mimics of the last few years, instead using the mushroom root, the incredible complex and fibers of the mushroom root to be able to give everything from what we said earlier to car seats and handbags and shoes to food, making again, meat-like kind of option, a chicken-like kind of option, even a mycelium butter that is being developed even as we speak, actually.
I've heard of that,
Yeah.
the mushroom-derived butter.
Yeah,
That would
I
be
know. High
fascinating.
fat, replaced with something that, again, is certainly more sustainable and certainly has attributes that are benefits without some of the detriments that we see in classic animal fats. The thing that I try to do is help people as developers are developing menu items or products is to be able to take the mushroom root together with the fruit. The fruit are the vet mushrooms we've been talking about. So
Yeah.
it's the creminis and the buttons and the shiitakes. And so when you could do, it's almost doubling down on mushrooms. You've got the root plus the fruit. And with that, you really have something powerful. There's even a few of the mushroom coffee companies that are starting to blend the fruit in with the root. And I think we're going to see that happening more and more. Of course, I'm all about the fruit. And yet we see the benefits that can come along as mycelium is just getting so much consumer attention.
Oh yeah, we haven't even begun to tap into what we can do with this. And that we're out of time, so I'm afraid we'll have to pick that up next time you join us, which I hope you will. Thank you so much, Pam, for that deep dive into mushroom trends. I want to thank our audience for joining us on this journey into the underground world of mushrooms and their many varieties and forms. Again, I'm David Fetter, executive editor technical for Prepared Foods Network. We've been chatting with the incredibly knowledgeable Pam Smith of the Mushroom Council, and we invite you to check out our many articles on not just mushrooms, but on all kinds of things, upcycling, meat and dairy analogs, all kinds of topics where you find we have a comprehensive library of videos, podcasts, articles, white papers, webinars, infographics by the top experts in the industry like Pam, all designed to help food and beverage developers and manufacturers succeed. You will find all of that at preparedfoods.com. And thank you for joining us. Goodbye till next time.
Bye-bye, David.